I know Jennifer Sherry, she might be teaching. And anyone know Jenny Brobist?
Well, Jennifer said she has a proxy, I believe. Is that right, Josh? I think it was supposed to be Jay Nichols. We can't hear you, Josh. Jane, I have a record of this. Jane Nichols is proxy for Jennifer Sherry. I don't know if that's next week's Senate meeting or today.
Okay. How about the budget committee? Have you heard anything from Jenny Brovist? Okay, so we're going to move on. The next one on our agenda is to approve the minutes from February 1st. I know today is March 1st. So any question, correction, comments on the minutes?
I'm not sure if I'm having audio problems. I can't hear Josh when he's not muted. And what about, I can hear you, Ting, just fine.
Yeah, I can't hear Josh either.
Okay, I can hear you. Okay, so, okay.
Any question, correction before we have a motion?
Motion to approve minutes.
Thank you. Anyone second?
I'm second.
Okay, we have two people second. Sung Hee and Patrick. Who is first? Okay.
I think Sung Hee was first. At least that's what I saw.
Okay. Thank you, Sung Hee. Thank you, Patrick. So we're going to vote. And as usual, we do voice vote. And all in favor. So I just say yay, nay, absentee, or we do, what do we do?
Just yes or no, or I abstain.
Yeah, we
Okay.
can go one at a time for approving the minutes. We'll start with Yu Ting Lee,
Yes, yeah.
myself, which is a yay. Patrick McGrath,
Yes.
Joe Stramick,
Yes.
Bethany Rader,
Yes.
Elaine Drakowski,
Yes.
Seung Hee Lee,
Yay.
and Amy Bro.
Yes.
Okay. That appears to be everyone, kind of a small crowd today.
Okay, so everybody approved the minutes. No absentee, no nay, right? Okay, minutes approved. Thank you. Okay, the next one on the agenda, my report or comments. Good afternoon, everyone. As usual, our February issue of Faculty Senate update and FIY went out to all our faculty members last week. In addition, I have several business matters to report to you very, very briefly. On February 8th, I had an individual meeting with Chancellor Nairn. We primarily talked about faculty health, budgetary issue, campus safety, and other issues. In the week of February 14th, Chancellor's office requested a meeting with different constituencies about the policy of wearing masks and safety practices on campus. Senator Jennifer Sherry attended the meeting on my behalf to represent the faculty senator. And she, Scott Comparado, and Josh did a survey, and the results showed that wearing masks indoor could help us in a safe work environment. I know Jennifer Sherry is not here, and she could, if you want more information, obviously you can get more information from her. I would like I wish to express my appreciation to them for this. On February 21st and also February 28th, yesterday, I attended the EOC, Emergency Operating Center meetings in the morning. Basically, at both meetings, we talked about mask policies. Actually, the mask now is optional on campus, vaccination and safety issues, and especially the practices after our students return from their spring break. So in the end of February, that means, and also early March, the University Budget Committee will have the first meeting. I guess maybe Jenny Brobist might be attending that meeting. That's my recognition. And Jenny Brobist will attend the meeting, and I will defer to her in this regard. I guess she might be at the meeting. So that's pretty much about the budget committee meeting. And also Idaho Institutional Ranking Idaho Committee met last week, and I will defer to Joe, who is the co-chair with Mike Heinen. So my report is very brief. Thank you so much. Any question, comments?
Actually, 2 weeks ago, because last Thursday would have been the ice storm.
Oh, okay. So you guys met 2 weeks ago, right?
And 2 weeks ago, we heard a rather extensive presentation by Wendell Williams, about the Associate Chancellor for Enrollment Management, about recruiting and retention trends at this university for the last decade and how that tends to affect 22% of the U.S. World Report's ranking every year. We then had a half-hour meeting after he presented to us, talking about some of the next steps. We decided that our job as a committee was more a fact-finding committee rather than necessarily presenting recommendations to the chancellor, that we were going to go more in a direction of actually what are the actual facts and how do we get, get that knowledge out and spread to other people who can make decisions. Because we were getting the impression that sometimes people make decisions on this campus without all the facts in front of them. So we first have to establish what the facts are. We're in the process now of holding our next meeting, which I hope will happen later this week on Thursday, unless it gets postponed till after spring break, which is also a possibility.
Very good. Thank you very much, Joe. I think excellent update. I think this is very helpful to us. Any question for me or for Joe?
So Elaine was at the meeting as well.
Pardon me?
That Elaine was at the meeting.
Oh, okay. Okay, good.
Can you please repeat what you said about it accounts for what percentage of our enrollment accounts for what percentage of
Okay,
our?
so I'm sorry, I'm chewing lunch here. U.S. News and World Report ranking is made up of about 8 different categories that go into the rubric.
Mhm.
And the largest single percentage, that is 22% of the whole score, is simply what is your recruiting and retention? What is your actual enrollment data? How does it compare on a rolling 5-year average, I believe, to what it was 5 years ago. So we're going to decline on that number for a few more years because they go 2021 compared to 2016. What is your graduation rate in that period? And because we lost a lot of students between 2016 and 2019 during the worst of the budget crunch, we're probably going to decline, and it's going to be completely out of our control. So it was very informative, actually, because he was talking to us about how these numbers sort of prop up elite institutions, particularly institutions that can throw a lot of resources at students to make sure they graduate in 4 years. And when we're dealing with the student body that we tend to deal with, which is a lot of first-generation students, a lot of working-class families, it's a little harder for us to compete in that world when the ranking is skewed in a certain way. But it was very informative because he was really kind of giving us a deep dive into the data and how it actually works. We're going to have further meetings like that. We're going to try to bring institutional research in. We're going to try to bring the International Studies office in. We're going to try to bring in people from the Registrar's office, all the various First Saluki Center. So we're sort of brainstorming at the moment, really what kind of really informed people on campus there are, identifying them, and then bringing them in to present the data to us so we can have a lot of information, and, continue our fact finding.
Okay, good. Thank you.
Just to add further to that, Yuting, I honestly think even though this is an ad hoc committee and there might be an expectation with ad hoc committees that they finish a report and then they're dissolved, I kind of think this committee is going to be around for a while.
Sure.
I just want to give the faculty senate also an update about that.
Yeah.
That is because it's more important for us, particularly with the strategic plan that was released last week. The chancellor and other people making decisions on this campus need to know a lot of information. And I'm not sure how much they know. For that matter, how much faculty know.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you so much, Joe. And I would like to move on. And if you have further question about my report or institutional ranking ad hoc committee, we will follow up as time, if we have more time today. We have a guest here, Miss Amanda Harninster here. So you have about 5-10 minutes. Amanda, are you ready?
Yes, thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Amanda Hesslinger. I am the Director of Saluki Cares here on campus. I also have Shelley Ridgway here with me. She is from Counseling and Psychological Services. We work very closely together. And a lot of what I deal with is mental health, and it's a lot better to have someone within mental health talk about those issues. So I'll take just a few minutes, and then Shelley will take just a few minutes of your time today. So my name is Amanda Hesslinger. This is my direct office phone number and the Saluki Cares email. Saluki Cares is a university-wide program of care and support for all of our students, whether they are first-time, part-time freshmen, up through our professional and doctoral degrees. Last fall, we had over 1,500 Saluki Cares reports submitted. That QR code will take you directly to the Saluki Cares report if you have a concern about a student. And we know that we have a lot more than 1,500 students with concerns, with issues. So we are always looking for ways to outreach to the people who have the most contact with students in order to be notified of those concerns. And we know that faculty have the most direct contact with students. So you all are going to be the first to notice any changes with students, any concerns that they have. And a lot of times students will report directly to faculty that they are having issues. The types of things that we see in Saluki Cares are typically academic concerns, a student who has stopped attending class or whose class attendance has changed or their performance has changed, students with financial issues, students with mental health concerns, adjustment, illness and medical concerns, housing insecurity and food insecurity are big problems for our students that a lot of people aren't aware of. But basically, I work with other university stakeholders on campus and off campus within the Southern Illinois region to get students to the resources that they need so that they can stay as a student and be successful. We have Saluki Cares team members from every college and every school. We also work very closely with Disability Support Services, University Housing, and all these other offices serve on the Saluki Cares team. When a student is in crisis, these are just some good numbers to have. I can send this PowerPoint out for everyone. Some people like to have this printed out. I just like to let everyone know that if you believe a student is a risk of harm to themselves or others, please always call the Department of Public Safety or Counseling and Psychological Services. Students who are housing or food insecure, you can always call me. We do have a food pantry on campus. And we also have students' legal assistants who can help students who are having issues with their lease, their landlord, or their rental agency. And then victims or survivors, obviously you are all mandated reporters, you know all of that information, but still just good information to have. And then anytime you would like me to follow up with a student, so if you have had to call DPS for a student, if you did have to call counseling and psychological services for a student, if you want to file a Saluki Cares report and let me know, I can follow up with that student and make sure that they are getting the help that they need. Obviously, please call emergency services first. And then that is my presentation. Like I said, very quick, very short. And I will turn it over to Shelley.
Thanks so much. I'm also going to be sharing a PowerPoint that Amanda can share at a later time. Oh, sorry, I'm having a moment. Can you all see the the PowerPoint now? Okay, let's apologize. Okay, so I am Shelley Ridgway. I'm one of the therapists within Counseling and Psychological Services, and I'm also the Director of Wellness and Health Promotions. And sharing with you just some of the information about the increase in need that we're seeing for mental health services, not just on college campuses, but across the country and the community as well. And so here's just some facts for you. Again, this will be shared so you can reference it, but certainly take note that we are seeing that nearly all of our college students are in need of some sort of mental health support, and that we here in CAPS have seen a 5-time increase in the need for services. And some of that might be in large part due to COVID, and we've seen that it's affecting people's mental health in the following ways. And I'm going to share with you also, I don't think any of these things are a surprise, but this was a survey that was done for our local community, just showing the need of our students, that they are experiencing an increase in stress, loneliness, financial hardships, and that is impacting their functioning as well. And so I think that the main point that we are really working is to educate all of you who work on the front lines with our students is, how do I identify and intervene when you're seeing students in need? And again, the point here is that we can all work together to help our students to be successful and retain so that they achieve their academic and again, future career goals. So some of the things that you might be seeing in the classroom are that they might be, exhibiting changes in adjustment or difficulties with excessive worry, expressing a lot of stress or difficulties meeting deadlines, that maybe their performance has changed, that they're, just reporting a lot more difficulties with maybe mood or struggling in some ways. You might see they might be more quick to anger, that they might be seeming to be more indecisive or confused more often. These are all signs that there might be some stressors going on that's causing a larger amount of stress than they can manage at the moment. And so they might be in need of additional supports. How do you approach when this happens? So we always find that it's helpful to be kind of that somebody who is approachable, somebody who models the importance of mental health in their day-to-day conversations, somebody who is able to have the time, setting aside time for students to come in and talk with you, that when they do approach you with their needs, that you're validating their feelings. And so keeping a calm, reassuring presence can really, really be helpful. It's okay to know what you can and can't offer. So we're not saying to take on something emotionally that feels more elevated or than you're comfortable with, but that, oftentimes you can really be the person to set them up for the resources that would be available. And so some ways that you can just, respond in the moment would be to respond, I'm so sorry this happened to you. Is there something that I can do for you? What do you feel like would help? And so kind of question directly. And letting them know about the resources that are available. So maybe if it's something that I can't directly help you with, I know who to put you in touch with who can get you those resources that you need or the support that you might need. And so just to review, the services that are available on campus is, of course, the Counseling and Psychological Services. We do have our main office in the Student Health Center, but we also have locations all across campus. We have 2 on each side of campus in university housing that are available for extended hours across the evenings and weekends. We have counselors in the Multicultural Resource Center up on the 4th floor. We have a counselor in athletics and somebody specifically available to work with students who are in the Achieve program as well. In addition to CAPS services in student health, there's our psychiatrist. We have disability support services here as well, our medical services, and those of us in the wellness and health promotion services are a great line of preventative and supportive services as well. There's the clinical center across campus and the Department of Public Safety and Saluki Cares is a great resource as well. So just to review those for you that you can put students in touch with. And I know we don't have much time today, but also really to be encouraging the importance of self-care. So self-care for yourself, but also for the students. So if you could just take 20 minutes a day to do something that is fulfilling for you, that goes a long way in helping you to be your best so that you can serve others. Appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Okay, we have time for 2 questions. We need to be behind schedule. I know we have a hand here from Jenny and also Bethany. Jenny first, then
Sorry,
Jenny,
who first?
you.
Okay, just quick question. Thank you so much for that. Are there any services that you don't provide? For example, do you offer anything related to substance abuse counseling? Do we have an AANA on campus? Is there anything else that you'd have to defer to Centerstone or some other group?
There are no services that we do not provide. We, because there are limited resources in our community, our center is equipped to handle any intense and severe need. We do offer outpatient eating disorder services. We offer couples. We have several groups that are available. We also help people in recovery and from alcohol and other drugs.
Very good, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Bethany.
Yeah, I just have a quick question. So a couple of years ago, I had a student that was suicidal and I had to report him to the police, the campus police, because he was writing things that indicated that he was going to harm himself and could possibly harm others. But I guess my question is, I didn't call Saluki Cares. Do you work with the campus police? So would that report have gone to you as well? Or if something like that happens, do I contact you guys as well?
Traditionally, typically we ask that you contact Saluki Cares as well. I do get reports from DPS, but it typically will take a couple days.
Okay.
Just for that, because they have to physically write the report, it has to get approved, and then it has to get sent over to me for follow-up. So if you let me know after you've spoken to DPS, I can start working on my end of things a lot faster.
Okay, great, thank you.
And then she lets us know in counseling and we're sure to reach out and offer support at that time as well.
Awesome. Thank you, guys.
Okay, thank you so much, Amanda and Shani, for your wonderful presentation. And if the senator or other folks have a question, feel free to contact their office. So I would like to move on. Would that be okay with you guys? Thank you for your presentation. Okay.
Thank you,
Thank
everyone.
you. Goodbye.
Okay. The report, okay, in fact, my report pretty much the same. I would like to defer to the next one. Okay, election committee, Bethany.
Yeah, sorry, I was gonna post the PowerPoints because can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, my thing was saying I was muted. I'm very confused. Yeah, I'll post the PowerPoints up in there because I believe I downloaded them. But if somebody else can do that as well, that's fine. Yeah, so we're sort of still in this holding pattern, because again, we're waiting on the APAA to give us lists that are going to be accurate in terms of who is what faculty and what unit on campus. Again, I'm just amazed at how messed up everybody's lists are. However, for the special election for the non-tenure folk, that we're planning to get that done ASAP. So that should be done hopefully within the next few weeks. And then for the special election for the one seat and for the upcoming turnover elections this spring, I'm literally just waiting on a good faculty list, because all of that seat reallocation is based on the number of voting faculty in each unit. And what we've gotten previously from HR is it took me days to try and make heads or tails of it. So the APA has assured me that at the beginning of March, they'll have a new and more accurate list. So really, I'm just in a holding pattern until we get that out. So that's my report.
Thank you. Now we have undergraduate education policy committee. We have 3 RMEs and also resolutions. I will defer to co-chairs, Amy and Joe, who would like to go first.
Amy should go first because that's the first resolution is hers.
Okay.
Yep, I saw that. So I will go first. So the resolution I had was for the elimination of the College of Liberal Arts minor in global studies. So currently there's a lack of student interest and enrollment in the minor, and there's a lack of a faculty stewardship. There's 2 students enrolled and they will be allowed to finish without interruption. So given really just those facts, we chose to approve that RME to bring to you today. There was a bit of a split vote, 1 yay, 1 no, and 2 abstain. And we looked into that, or Joe looked into that, and it was kind of explained that there might have been some confusion going on, but as far as where we are with the resolution, and it just seems that there was no kind of going back from where we're at. So it's kind of, it was one of the ones that we kind of put on hold to gain more information originally, but that's where we're at.
We had originally 9 RMEs. We held 2 of them back last month because we wanted more information. 2 of them are now this month, but in part of this month instead. I asked Amy to write this resolution because I wanted to recuse myself from writing it because I have very conflicted feelings. As a committee chair, I feel like my role as committee chair is to represent the committee at large when I write these resolutions. I couldn't feel I could do that because I object to this happening. I came in 2007. When I came in 2007, my field of study is a history of British imperialism in South Asia. So I'm inherently a global studies scholar. I was tasked immediately when I arrived here on campus by my then dean, Alan Vo, in psychology. And he was my first college dean. And he promoted this minor. He himself was from Dublin. He believed very much in global and international cross-cultural relationships. He asked me immediately when my first year on the tenure track whether I'd consider being shepherding this minor. And I had colleagues in my department who said to him, barked at him, literally, I think, it's not fair to put a tenure track person with that service burden. They have to worry about getting their publications in their book. You can't, expect that of a junior faculty member. But that goes to show the reason I'm telling you this story, and I'm trying to cut to the chase with it. The reason I'm telling you this story is this was the dean's initiative. This was the dean's initiative in my college. I don't know at the time in 2007 or 2006 when it was pioneered, how much faculty buy-in was there. Alan Vo retired as my dean in 2009. Nobody else cared about this. We eventually got international studies as a minor and a major. And now we are facing, like we did with museum studies last month, like we're doing with French. When nobody cares about something, programs go away. So I think the takeaway for me, and this is why I feel very conflicted about this, why I recuse myself from writing a resolution this month. And I'm just speaking here as a faculty member. Now I'm not speaking as a co-chair, I'm speaking as a faculty member. I'm tired of administrators on this campus putting pet projects about curriculum and then like taking the role of faculty control curriculum, we control curriculum. I think it's high time that we tell administrators when they want to control curriculum, that's not their place. Because somebody comes, somebody goes, curriculum then disappears. And I'm tired of that pattern on this university campus. So that's where I come from on this issue. I probably will abstain on this vote next week at the faculty senate, just because I feel like this is a very example of heavy-handedness, both by present dean, who's getting rid of it, and the previous dean who established it. Thank you for hearing me.
Sure. Well, I put my hands on speaking as a faculty senate, and now that as a faculty senate president, I would defer to co-chair Amy Bro and co-chair Joe Shramick. As a cross-cultural psychologist, I'm against putting it on the agenda. And I think it's faculty driven, number one. And second, I think if, let's say, future faculty member come or future students are interested, we have to restart the process again. And again, that's my opinion as a faculty senator. I would defer to the co-chairs. Next one is Bethany.
Yeah, I just had a really quick question about, because you said there's an international studies major and minor. How similar or how different is the international studies minor from this particular minor? Like, is there overlap between them, or do they teach, or do these have completely different foci?
I believe there's considerable overlap, in fact, between them. What I understand about the international studies major is because it's housed in the Department of Languages, it has extensive foreign language studies built into it, particularly the major. I don't know about their minor because I have to look into I'd have to look at the catalog to see what the minor says. But I know for the major that you take 2 years of a foreign language at least, plus do courses in cultural studies across different disciplines. But I'd have to look into that, Bethany.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Patrick?
Thank you. Yeah, I would just note in response to your question, Bethany, that I'm on the COLA Council, and that question explains that split vote from the COLA Council, that we were confused about the relationship between the international studies major and minor and the global studies major and minor, and I don't think we've ever really received clarification on that point, which is problematic. And I just a couple quick observations. I will also say that I personally have felt, being a faculty member in COLA, we have really witnessed the demolition of the College of Liberal Arts. We have gone from, our programs have been cut in half. And we feel on this campus, at least I feel, perhaps some other colleagues in liberal arts feel this as well, that we're really under attack, and that this administration doesn't care about the liberal arts, and that they're actively seeking to take it apart piece by piece, which is what's happened in the College of Liberal Arts. And I would also say that this notion that the only metric to consider whether to retain a program is student enrollment, that seems to me to be quite false. I think we should be a campus that says we need to have French, we need to have a global studies major and minor. Those are important pieces of knowledge for any student to have access to, regardless of whether that program currently has 0 students or currently has 5 students. I think that we're so obsessed with thinking about, are students going to take this class? We want students to come to SIU so desperately that we don't think about what kind of knowledge will they have when they leave this institution? What's important to us as faculty members in saying, this is an area of knowledge that has a great deal of value. And whether students take this class or not, it should be available for them. And I think that at least is my perspective on many of the RMEs that have come through COLA Council, and that I really have witnessed in seeing the College of Liberal Arts really just taken apart piece by piece. So thank you.
Thank you, Amy.
Thank you, Patrick. I know that you gave us a lot of the insight that we were looking for when we were discussing it in regarding that confusion around the votes or the difference in the votes and the confusion that followed. I did want to address that one thing that we discussed that pushed this forward was the lack of having that faculty backing or having a driving person with it. So not only the low student enrollment, but we didn't want to, or we thought it was unfair almost to the students to say, here's this global study when there was such confusion and not really anyone to support them and help them with that. But I agree with everything you said as well. I just wanted to point that out since we did discuss both sides of that, the student enrollment and the lack of the faculty driver.
Well, I saw the chart from Joe. I think a good point here. Curriculum, academic policy should be faculty driven. So it's important rather than top down by deans or provost or chancellor office. Otherwise, what's the function or the role of faculty senate?
And as much as I usually get along rather famously with Associate Provost Chevalier, this is one of those areas where I pushed back. I said, I'm not rushing this. We're going to take our time with it because we need to find out what degree of faculty involvement there was in this curricular decision. I don't know. I mean, we have to go back and look at the archives to see what the Faculty Senate did when it passed the original RMA way back when. I'm sure that's available. I'm sure we can dig that out. But again, deans, particularly when we have not gotten any hires in our college, or very few hires in our college, when we have programs like the law school, like other professional programs that really rely on us to teach a lot of their eventual students. And then you're just not giving us resources because you're everything's about enrollment driven. I think, Patrick, you're absolutely right about that. When the only metric that you consider is how you grow how many more people you can bring here. But on the other hand, it's complicated. We're a creature of the state of Illinois, and the IBHE does measure how many majors you have every year and whether you're a viable program. So there's a lot of factors here. Jenny, you have your hand raised, so I'll defer to you, I guess.
Just very quickly, I feel like as a faculty senate member, my role is to support the faculty. And if we only have one vote in support of this RME, I'm not feeling faculty support for this initiative, so I'm not comfortable with it. I think I have no idea what the background is, but I don't feel comfortable moving forward if I have no idea. So I think if they really want this, they need to push this and they need to clarify.
Okay, now we need to have a motion to move against putting on the agenda.
Ting, I think it's already on the agenda because it's from a standing committee, and I think under Robert's Rules of Order, as I understand it, committee reports with resolutions automatically are privileged. Therefore, we don't need a motion to.
Okay, thank you, Joe. I think you're right. So the motion here, do we have more discussion before to have a vote to allow it to be on the agenda? Am I right?
That is correct, yeah.
Okay. Any more discussion before to have a vote on the agenda? Okay. So we have a yay, nay, abstention, 3 options. We need to do orally voice vote. Maida Kozlowski.
Could you present the question?
The question is that do we allow this to put it on the agenda for the next
Okay.
Senate meeting? That
Thank you.
means,
Advance to the Senate.
that's our job, okay.
Was
So-
there a motion?
I call the question.
Okay, second, if it hasn't been already, sorry.
So,
Okay. We'll start with Yu Ting Lee
nay,
and then myself. I'm a nay. Patrick McGrath,
Nay.
Seung Hee Lee,
Nay.
Bethany Rader,
Nay.
Joseph Sramick,
I'm actually going to vote against my own committee, nay. I was persuaded by people on this call today.
Elaine Jerkowski,
Nay.
Jennifer Brobst,
Nay.
Amy Bro,
I'm gonna yay. I think I'm the only one.
it's okay, I've been there before. Okay,
okay, how many
8
nay?
nays, 1 yay.
No absenting, okay. So we're not going to put it on the agenda for next Senate meeting. Josh, make sure you know, okay, good.
And in case anybody asks, because we're in that 60-day window of, we're going to say the faculty senate does not agree to advance this, and Lizette needs to know that.
Good.
Administration can always overrule us. We're only advisory, but we're not even going to advance this.
Okay, if they send the paper for me to sign, I will just know. They may just overdo it. That's their job. At least we're not going to put on the agenda. Okay, the next one, I'm E grade, a minor in cultural competence.
Okay, so this one was also kind of complicated, and we held it back again another month to have a revise and resubmit. This is something that the School of Africana and Multicultural Studies is working on. It's very intriguing and interesting. This idea to have a minor of which 15 credit hours that includes some courses, possibly independent study as well. And some of these courses need to be taken outside of the major field of study. So that is stretching the student. This idea that in the 21st century, as we live in a very global world, an interconnected world, that more and more people need to have this transcultural, multicultural understanding, particularly in their workforce as they leave college and join the workforce. So this is something that's gotten very strong support from psychology, from history, from anthropology, from a range of disciplines, sociology, range of disciplines across the campus. And so we, after they took our ideas and refined them a little further, I now present the resolution in front of you today with really excitement about it. So much so that we're thinking that this should somehow, some way be worked into the core curriculum as well. That's a bigger conversation along another time for that other conversation. But since, if we really want to endorse diversity on this campus, or we really want to endorse multiculturalism on this campus, cultural competency on this campus, we should think about those things as well. So today I just have one resolution, but I have, as I said, the other idea, the broader idea as well, possibly in the back of my head.
Okay, any questions? No questions, so we're going to vote. So ready, Matt? Put it on agenda.
Well, I call the question if there's no debate or discussion.
No question, no further discussion, then we're going to. Okay, the vote to put it on the agenda next after spring break, next faculty senate meeting. Mike, ready?
Yes. Okay. Yu Ting Lee,
Yes, yeah.
Matt myself, yay. Patrick McGrath,
Yes.
Seung Hee Lee,
yay,
Bethany Rader,
Yay.
Joseph Sramick,
Yes.
Elaine Drakowski,
yes,
Jennifer Brobst,
Yay.
and Amy Bro.
Yay.
Okay,
Okay, and then the final resolution I have for you today is following a trend that the chancellor has instituted, which is rather welcome. I told the associate provost this last week when she was in the committee meeting, how much I really enjoy this breath of fresh air in a way, because we don't usually, as faculty senate, weigh in on centers on this campus because they don't have they don't teach courses for undergraduates. Typically in the past, administrators have seen this as not in our purview of oversight, and therefore they don't send it to the faculty senate. But because they are academic units on this campus and they have relationships with academic units on this campus, I think this is rather important that we're considering this right now. So this is a center that was set up by the National Science Foundation in 2014 on this campus. And as Lizette explained to me, and I'm not a scientist, so I apologize to my science colleagues on this call that if I butcher this, because I don't know what an NSF grant looks like, so I never, it's not something I do. As I understand it, they only fund seed money to set up something for 6 or 7 years, and then you're expected to then be self-sustaining, and the grant is then withdrawn. And so they apparently are very self-sustaining at this point. And so they are now asking for our endorsement to become an official IBHE approved center on this campus starting next year. Okay, so that is the resolution in front of you. Are there any questions or debate or discussion on this?
What do they do?
Apparently everything including your cell phone technology, supermarket technology, scanners, all kinds of things that are embedded in our daily lives.
What departments would they connect with?
It's in the computer engineering, computer and biomedical. What is it? What is it? I should have it in front of me. Computer and biomedical engineering. What's the other department?
Electrical engineering?
Electrical, computer, and biomedical engineering.
I will just one observation quickly, Joe, because you mentioned that they're kind of a free-floating academic structure. From the RME, they've gotten unanimous faculty support.
That's correct.
So
thank you for pointing that out, because that is necessary to mention.
Assuages my conscience. If faculty are supporting it, then I'm happy to.
Yeah, thank you. That was the most overlooked fact there. Thank you for pointing that out. This also assuages my conscience. If faculty supports something, I support it.
Okay.
Go ahead, Bethany.
Yeah, this is, so I do some work with big data. So this is something that I'm very in support of. But my question is, so to be granted temporary IBHE status as what? As a center, and then, or is it something that's gonna, in the future wants to grant degrees? Like what is?
As I understand, yes, as I understand this status, it's a non-degree conferring institute / research center / academic unit, but doesn't actually confer degrees. I wish Lizette were on the call right now, because she would probably correct me. So there's a very precise category this falls into, where they have the access to university resources. In a sense, they'll get an office on campus. So I'm thinking it's like the Paul Simon Institute. It's like several of the Fisheries Institutes, like several of the big centers we have on campus that go out and, or for that matter, the Archaeological Institute that works with anthropology. Those, there's a variety of institutes we have on this campus that are research centers. And neither of them confer degrees. Not a single one of them confer degrees. So therefore, they have to be endorsed by the IBHE.
Right, and faculty can be cross-appointed between center and so
Yes.
they're, okay. Okay,
But I don't think they could, but I think it's a separate category rather than an academic unit. Academic unit confers degrees, and these things do not. I hope I got that right.
I believe you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah, Bethany first.
Oh, I
Bethany,
just,
No, you, Jenny, I'm sorry, Jenny.
I just want to say, when I was hired to direct a center. And they deferred the IBHE assessment of the center for a year so that I would have to handle the assessment. Yeah, and my assessment was, it was insufficiently funded, that center status was not a benefit. We continue to have a national health law moot court competition at the law school. We offer pretty much everything lots of health law centers offer around the country. And I still do not regret my decision that we don't call it a center because it didn't help us. Excuse me. So bless them if they want to do it, but a lot of centers
They're taking a risk in a way because, I mean, they're saying we're not going to get a single dollar of state support or federal support.
and it doesn't help students. Sometimes they talk about pet projects. So, yeah.
Well, Joe, I have a question for you and Amy about this IME. Do you know whether they have sent to the graduate council, they have a research committee?
I believe it'll also be sent to the graduate council because we handled a bunch of, this is a chancellor's order. As I said, we have not seen these up to this starting this fall. And starting this fall, last semester, you might recall, we saw the Touch of Nature renaming itself. We saw a couple of them. And those all go also to the grad council because again, they're in this in-between status of being a separate status altogether of being a center that doesn't confer academic degrees, but has a research function. And so therefore it touches both undergraduate and graduate is what I would think.
so it's not on the agenda for this upcoming month's
Right, so grad council.
grad council meeting. So it may be in the future, but it
And
is
it
not
might
for
be,
this month.
it might be because it goes before us first.
Okay. All right, any more question for them before we have a vote? Because we're almost 7 minutes before 1 o'clock. We still have a few more reports.
Well, I call the question then.
Okay. So we close the discussion, right? Okay, we're going to have a voice or vote, Mike.
Okay. Yu-Ting Lee,
Yes, yeah.
Matt is yay. Patrick McGrath,
Yay.
Sung Hee Lee,
Yay.
Bethany Rader,
Yay.
Joseph Shremick,
Yay.
Elaine Drakowski,
Yay.
Jennifer Brobst,
Okay. Yay.
and Amy Bro.
Yay.
Okay.
Good, thank you. Resolution passed, okay. Now we're going to go to the budget committee. Jenny?
I actually don't have a report to put on the agenda this month. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm just asking you a question. You're going to attend the University Budget Planning Committee, right?
tomorrow, yes.
Okay, thank you. Very good. I saw these today. Okay, that's good. Committee on committee, we have Yinan and Sung-Hee.
Yes, we have two items that we're going to talk about today. So the first are appointment of faculty. The first item, it relates to the JRB, the Judicial Review Board. We had an election and we have a new chair and co-chair who were elected by the committee itself. And we would like to recommend Dr. Jose Ruiz as chair and Dr. Sandra Collins as co-chair or vice chair for the Judicial Review Board. In addition, we have a faculty member, Professor Bice, who has been serving in the role of the Intercollegiate Athletic Committee. And she is on sabbatical and going to be out of the country. So she has requested a proxy to serve in her place the remainder of the semester. And our committee of committees is recommending Dr. Phil Anton fulfill her role while she's on sabbatical for the remainder of the semester. So I move to approve these appointments. Sung-hee?
Seconded.
I will second that.
Okay, so we're going to vote, maybe it's, so we have a motion and second, we need to vote, Matt?
Yu-Ting Lee,
Yes,
Matt is yes. Patrick McGrath,
Yes.
Seung-Hee Lee,
Yes.
Bethany Rader,
Yes.
Joseph Ceramic,
Yes.
Elaine Drakowski,
Yes.
Jennifer Brobst,
Yay.
Amy Bro.
Yay.
Okay,
okay, good.
So our second item that we would like to put on the Faculty Senate agenda, we were asked to recruit 10 volunteers for the Gray and Associates to represent Faculty Senate and faculty for Gray and Associates meetings that will be upcoming. And we have not completed recruiting people. We can have 10 volunteers and we have 5 so far. So we would like to put on the agenda for next week. We're going to personally do some outreach to some people like that we think would be appropriate to serve in that role and have a vote with our committee on committees before our next meeting.
Well, I do have a question about this process. I know Dr. Mark Holden coordinated this. He was the previous Faculty Senate president. So I'm just curious about his role now in coordinating this because that raises the issue of faculty independence. And if he is still administrator, and then this should be the Faculty Senate job. That's why I have not sent my name to be one of the volunteers yet. How, why on 10 or why 5? I'm just curious.
So that's a question we had too, like how is this group composed? Because I did see a list of other stakeholder groups that were, invited to participate as well. And they have varying numbers of representatives, anywhere from like 1 to 10.
And the chancellor, the provost will be here. I think this issue need to be raised to him.
Okay.
Please. Thank you.
I think so, yeah.
Okay. Faculty Status Welfare Committee, I mentioned.
Jennifer has a question.
Oh, okay.
Just very briefly. So Marcus Odom and I were co-chairs of budget. And at our very first meeting, he volunteered to be the liaison for our committee to Gray and Associates. So we need to understand this history. He's now removed himself, having taken on a more administrative role from Faculty Senate, but he never shared with us any information about Gray and Associates on our budget committee. And I think it doesn't have to be a budget committee involved thing, but it really does need to be representative is all I'm going to say. And in the beginning of the year, when the chancellor addressed why Gray and Associates was coming, he reassured us that it was also going to be a point in time to evaluate what are, say, core liberal arts courses that we need to have, what every college should have. But when I saw the last announcement come out about Gray and Associates to the entire university, it said nothing about that and only talked about essentially culling departments as needed. And we all knew that was a concern. And so I think it's critically important that whatever volunteers we have, they be from departments that feel at risk. That voice needs to be heard because everybody, actually, I'm surprised you don't have 50 people volunteering for this committee. It's probably because faculty don't understand what this committee is. So I'm just going to put that out there.
Thank you, Jenny, Joe.
Oh, Jenny said most of what I was going to say. I was just going to add that that this has been rather confusing since it first started about a year ago. I was part of the group of faculty senators back in May, just as the term was ending, and we were about a month into we're about a week or two into our summer leave, and and it was hard to get a group of us because a lot of us are on 9-month contracts, so we're not required to do anything, once we're on summer leave. And I was trying to understand why Ray Associates was being called and what was the purpose and what's the goal behind it. And I have not gotten a clear answer on it. I've gotten about 3 different answers, I think. So keep asking, Jenny.
Okay, thank you. Patrick?
Yes, I do have serious concerns about this, and I articulated them at the last Faculty Senate meeting, and I'd like to talk about them with the provost and the chancellor today. I will also, I'm just very curious, how did this relationship originate? I mean, why Gray and Associates? What was it? How were they given this task? How were they found? And I will say that I've also gotten much concern from some constituents about Gray and Associates, some of the work they've done elsewhere, about as I think the word was culling programs. That's a very live concern among faculty members. And so I think this really does need to be addressed. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Patrick, for your comments. I would like all 3 of your comments put it on hold. That means the comments from Patrick, Joe, and also Jenny hold for a few minutes because we still have one more item, actually a few more items on the agenda. We're kind of behind the schedule. So Faculty Status Work Committee, in fact, I mentioned that Jennifer Sherry attended the chancellor's meeting with other constituencies. So she did the survey, and I do not want to repeat that, but because both Scott and Jennifer Sherry have class at the same time, they cannot be here. So Governance Committee, Patrick?
Yes, this is the job ad for the parliamentarian. This was something that I sent to Yuting and Josh. Is it possible for you to share your screen so that it's very short, the job ad, if we wish to approve it? I will, the context, this was written, I mean, largely by, I guess I would say largely by me in consultation with the governance committee. The governance committee, no one objected to this job ad, and they did have several revisions, which I incorporated. My questions would be, I don't know where this job ad gets posted. Is it posted on Higher Touch? That was one question from a member of the governance committee. So if I could have the advisement from Yuting and other members of this body, if this is approved, of the next step, I would appreciate it. Thank you.
And I show this on the screen. This is what you sent to me by email, right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you very much for this update. I think we may need to send, once your governance committee approved this, and then Faculty Senate EC, let's say if they have no objection, then we're going to send to all the faculty members. If they're interested, they can reply to Josh. Would that be okay?
That's perfectly fine.
I have 2 brief.
Yeah. Joe first, then Yinan.
I have 2 brief ideas. First, I think this is wonderful, Patrick. Second, I don't think it's a Higher Touch thing because we're not actually paying anybody for this. I think it's a committee, probably a committee on committees of recommendation, if I understand our operating paper.
Yes. Okay, Yinan.
Okay, so
then Jenny. Yinan.
So I just wanted some clarification because I understood it was more of a volunteer service role as opposed to a paid role. And so I was confused with the Higher Touch piece, but I'm totally in sync with the person being, a volunteer from the faculty at large, and that it run through Committee on Committees.
Okay, thank you. Jenny?
I recall when we were first talking about this, that we had some discussion on the power of the position and that we had agreed in this body that it would be an advisory role to the president of the faculty senate, not as a referee when there were concerns during active faculty senate meetings.
Okay, thank you. Very good.
So I think the resolution needs to add a prong to say to serve in an advisory role to the president of the faculty senate. And then I'm good.
Thank you. Patrick?
Yeah, just very quickly. So we had originally talked about this being a paid position, so the job ad mentions it being paid. Do we wish to remove that? Is that we want to remove the notion of it being paid?
When did it not become paid? I missed that
Well,
conversation.
I mean,
thought
I mean, if we're going by other universities with parliamentarians on their senates, and I've asked around about that. That's the custom is that's a service assignment like anything else with faculty, volunteer. The committees would vet the nominations and present us a recommendation for an individual. I mean, I think that's what's normally happens in these instances.
We were worried that we would not attract any candidates, so I don't remember where it originated. I think perhaps Dr. Lee said we could offer a salary for a stipend for this position. So, but please let me know if we want to change that. I mean,
Well, based on my conversation with previous faculty senator, Jonathan Beam, and also Marcus Oldham, and also Grant Miner, they suggest that if we give them like a symbolic stipend, so-called stipend, support professional development, like $50 for each meeting, something like that, that might be incentive. But and some of my colleagues, including Jenny, oppose it. I think so. That's why we leave it to as an option. And if we get a graduate student or students, they may be not in good quality. So that's the dilemma there. But I'm open to different options. Jenny?
A law student would not be qualified for this role. And I can state that I feel like it would be divisive to pay the position when all of us work in a voluntary capacity. And I also feel like it would be a conflict of interest, particularly if the person is in an advisory role and wants to keep the money, that they would say what they needed to say to please the president. And our point in having this role is that we have a neutral person that actually knows the rules. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay.
My 3 pence agree with that.
Okay, thank you. I think at least we had a discussion and then we'll see how it works. And okay, any more questions for governance committee? Okay, we have all the business. In fact, at our last faculty senate meeting, and we didn't have time to finish it. So now, and we have, I think Jenny, you mentioned about this. We continue to put these 2 items on the
Yes, thank you.
Would that be okay?
Yes, and just since I teach at 3, if it could be moved just a little bit earlier, that's why it wasn't raised at the last meeting.
Okay.
So thank you. It doesn't have to be first thing, but just not close to the end.
Okay, I will move a little bit above that. Very good. So we're going to continue to put all the business there. Okay. So now it's almost 2:09 and we have Chancellor Lin and Provost Kumraja here. So I know 3 of you mentioned about the Gray Associate, and let us start from those 3 of you, and Joe, Patrick, Jenny, and you have concern about the Gray Associate, okay? So, and Chancellor
I have less concern, I think, than some other my colleagues have. I just feel that the purpose of this hasn't really been all that clarified yet. So maybe that's my question is what do you see the purpose of this investigation by this outside agency into our academic affairs? What do you see the outcome being?
No. And also before you came here, Chancellor Lam, Provost Kumrajo, some of us mentioned the concern about why Marcus Oldham allocated how many 9 to attend the meetings there. and what's his role. I mean, given that he resigned from faculty senator, so I know in the past year, he coordinated to represent faculty senator. He continued to coordinate, then obviously he is not a faculty senator anymore. So that's why maybe at least some concerns raised. Just FYI, maybe you can help us to understand.
Yeah, it's still pretty early. I may need to start with that. I think to Joe's point, we just met about a week and a half ago with several on a call with Gray's Associates. Gray's is in the process, and any and all of you, as a matter of fact, if the entire group wants to be on that next meeting call, you're welcome to it. Gray's is actually going to sit down and lay out what in fact they're going to be doing to work with us. They did a good job of it the other day when we talked to them. I think you really need to hear from them and the consultant at this point. That way it's not a matter of Dr. Odom or some of the other folks who've been involved. We're wide open to doing that if you like. We can have Gray speak directly to you. And that way you get a real good sense. You don't have to hear it secondhand. How about that? We can set that up for you if you like. I did just send a text to Matt because I know Gray's laid out a pretty elaborate, discussion of a day and a half that they want to spend with us, close to about 2 days back to back. And so, you could hear that before they do the 2 days if you want. We can have Gray's do a Zoom with you to talk about sort of what that 2 day would look like. You can ask any questions you like at that moment, and they'll be glad to answer it. I think we were saying early on, there was a lot of concern about the academic reorg, and there was a lot of concern about what do we look like today? Are the programs really aligned in a way that's going to move students to be not only in the programs, but then outside of our institution to the workplace? Were there any efficiencies? Was that even the goal of the academic reorg? So really their job, from what I understand, is to look at all of our programs to try and give us a leg up on maybe how we can market those programs so that we can see the types of things we want to see in enrollment in those areas. So, we can definitely get you in front of that group, and you can ask a lot of those questions from them if you like. I don't have a problem with that at all. I think they'd even like to do that themselves. I know most of who they're meeting with is going to be faculty. It's not going to be a lot of administrators sitting in there. So, Joe, you had a question there?
Well, I have a couple of things. So first of all, I would also encourage you to ask our lead group to talk to them at some point soon. Because I think, I want to bring people that are not on this call, but part of your group there, and I co-relate between the two groups. I went to their thing on May when they were first selling it to us. And as program coordinator, I will say the type of information they were telling me was they would be able to do a lot of micro data and really drilling down in my enrollment data and my retention data in ways that I guess we're not capable of doing at this university, or maybe we're not asking those questions the right way or something. So I came away back in May, about 9 months ago, feeling like this could be on balance a good thing. And not as suspicious of it, but I echo what Patrick is saying, that when I talk to colleagues in my college, in my department and my college about this, and given that the College of Liberal Arts really feels a sense of siege, or under a sense of siege right now, we've been endless austerity. We just had endless austerity at us. That there's a lot of suspicion of this. And so I think, getting more people in front is probably the way to dispel that. But I actually have a serious question, which is, I want to commend you for writing getting your strategic vision out last week. I know it was ice storm, and you got your strategic vision. The problem here that I'm going to present to you is I've been on this campus 15 years, and I've seen chancellors come and go with strategic visions. In fact, I think I can, somewhere SIU at 150 is gathering dust somewhere somewhere some of these other ones are gathering dust. So I guess the question I have is a strategic question. It's not that there was bad intentions by any of your predecessors. In fact, they're rather noble. I would say, by and large, people want to do the right thing for the institution. I generally believe that in all cases. But we've been through a roller coaster of a ride with the state, with its ability to fund us, to the negligent support that's not having a state budget at time to time, not having the type of budgetary allocations we actually need to do the things we need to do on this campus for our students. So what are your strategic ideas about making sure that your strategic vision is actually implemented rather than also another one that just got discussed?
Well, first of all, it's our strategic vision, it's not mine.
Sure.
A lot of the feedback that we received came from each of you. And as I mentioned the other day in one of the sessions, now the real work begins, Joe, to make sure that it's not a doom loop. And that comes with what we call an annual cycle of effectiveness. That's what we'll be on. So if you get a chance to talk to Will, he's building the repository to keep all of the information that we're doing in our unit effectiveness plans, which you should be hearing about throughout the university for the non-academic areas. Every vice chancellor, every dean is in the process right now, and it's due by April 1st. It's due to Will, so he can put that in the repository and use what we call TrackDat to see how we're doing and how we're coming along with each of the top 5 pillars and the measures and targets that we have set. So the strategic action steps are being developed right now. Each vice chancellor and dean, particularly vice chancellors, are meeting with their entire divisions now and setting up their methods of assessment, what strategic action steps they're going to take, what measures they're going to hit. It's like a machine that's being formed right now. And that's what's going to keep it from being maybe what you're used to seeing is something that just kind of dies out. I've mentioned this throughout the process. It's an accountability plan. So, we're going to document the accountability so it does not die. That was the promise that we made after getting all that qualitative data from all of you. When you told us, here's what we need to focus on, well, it's in there. So you'll see that happen in a lot of areas. It's happening now in terms of that information, and it'll be transparent. So when Will puts this into the repository, you'll be able to see at any given time with one click what's happening in each of these areas in terms of what they're trying to accomplish. You'll be able to see that. The event on Friday, this diversity, equity, and inclusion event, I know some of you attended that. That was also, it doubled for Dr. Frazier to be able to start to think about what he needed to put in that DE&I pillar as it relates to things that we want to see done right going forward. So I'm pretty comfortable. Matter of fact, I'm not pretty comfortable. I'm very comfortable with us laying the foundation for what we're calling institutional effectiveness and planning. Now I'm speaking Dr. Lee's language because I know that's the questions he usually has. But that is how we will keep our information and our plan alive.
And really reassuring, that answer. I knew the answer already. I just wanted you to state it publicly before my colleagues here, just because I feel just a real strong sense of, as a rank and file faculty member here the last 15 years, that we haven't had that level of planning. We plan for 2 years and we backtrack, go this way, go that way. And we never really follow through on a lot of things. And the resources aren't always there. The state is fickle, but enrollment is in decline. A lot of macro factors affecting us in that sense. But I'm gratified to hear your answer just now. Thank you.
And I did mention what you did, Joe, finances and resources. I'm sorry. That is more reason as to why these plans are so critical, because we don't have all the finances to finance everything. So we've got to narrow our focus down on activities that fit within the top 5 pillars that give us the best opportunity to move the needle in an efficient way. So we can't, have all these different ideas. It really has to be focused because our resources are going to be focused. So I failed to mention that, but you beat me to the punch on that, but okay. It is about the resources.
Okay, thank you. And next question from Patrick.
Yes, thank you. So I think we were discussing Gray and Associates, and I will just say that I have had concerns from some of my constituents, and some of them are also my concerns, about Gray and Associates and a certain reputation they have at other institutions for culling programs, for closing programs. That is a question that I asked in the Faculty Senate meeting last month, and it's still a concern that I have about what their recommendations will be. And I've heard that concern echoed by other faculty members. And I will also, I think that part of the problem with Gray and Associates is the timing of their being brought in. One of the great criticisms of reorganization was it was proceeding without any data. And now Gray and Associates is being brought in after reorganization has transpired, whereas it would have made more sense for them to have been brought in at the beginning of reorganization so that we could understand, well, this is why we're reorganizing. This is the purpose and the marketability behind putting these academic programs together. So I think it's the timing of their being brought in that is confounding. And then I will also just say again that when I was at the same informational meeting that Joe was at last May, they did mention sunsetting programs. And that was very concerning to me to hear that language. And so I'm wondering if this is going to result in the closure of programs or perhaps also, is it going to result in more reorganization? And I know that in the College of Liberal Arts, we've been reorganized within an inch of our life. We can't deal with any more reorganization. So is that also going to be one of the results of this? So I thank the Chancellor and the Provost for their attention to those questions. Thank you.
Yeah, Patrick, thanks for the heads up. And we definitely don't want any, consultant to cause any anxiety. Now, I will tell you, Gray's consulting can't close anything. They don't have the power to do that, right? They can't sunset anything. We have processes here for that. Gray's couldn't do that. They don't have the authority to do anything except look at our data, as Joe mentioned earlier, tell us where we can have some gains in enrollment in some areas, where we can beef up in other areas. That was my thought of why we have Gray's here even to begin with. Gray's has no authority to come in and tell us to shut anything down. We already know what programs we already know right now. If I would ask the provost, hey, can you ramble off a list of maybe low producing programs or programs that have been sent to the Illinois Board of Higher Ed because they're on this list? We've had programs on there probably for a number of years that are just on there. Yeah, we haven't closed them down yet. So them coming here would not be kind of the final, hey, now that we bring Gray's in, we're finally going to do it. That's not what the purpose is, nor will we allow them to, they don't have any authority, I guess is what I'm saying. But to your point, and to Joe's point earlier, I think what I'm hearing is so that we can have a little more sense of security with this process is that you at least hear about what they are thinking about, assessing and looking what data they're looking at. Let's get them in front of this group and kind of go through that again so we can hear it collectively. And, Dr. Lee, it's probably a good time to, for you and Dr. Odom to kind of do the, hey, what do you know? And do a little bit of a trade-off here so you have a little more firsthand knowledge of then what Gray's is actually talking about. So we're open to doing that.
Okay, I will reach out to him. Maybe we're going to have a meeting. We can build a connection or bridge there. Thank you.
Yep.
So we have two questions here. One from Matt, then after that, Jenny. Matt first.
I think you're muted there, Matt. Your mute's off on your screen, though. It looks like you're.
Headset. It's probably the headset.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, headset. Yeah. Well, Jenny first. Jenny, maybe not Matt. Okay, Matt.
All right, Matt. We'll get back to you.
Yeah, Jenny, why don't you?
I think there was concern from the beginning with Gray and Associates, and I think it was always going to be that way. I don't personally think that it would help to just have them come and chat, because I remember the last time they kept responding, and I may be misremembering, but they kept saying things like, well, we don't make any decisions, like you just said. We don't have any authority. We're just going to get you some data. I think everybody knows they're gathering data and what type of data. I think what might actually calm people down a little bit is if they had a better sense of the timetable, because I know that I thought on budget committee it was going to happen a lot faster. And so then I didn't know for a long time, is it not happening, or is we not just simply being told? And so I think the campus as a whole would benefit from, even if it's going to change, a tentative timeline on when their process will end. And then one more thing, maybe a tentative plan on how you're going to gather impressions from the campus on it. I think the campus wants a voice, and they just don't want to miss their opportunity. And I don't think it's probably now, while all the data gathering is going on. It may be premature, but if you could give them some reassurance that you are going to have a voice and this is when, I personally think that would help.
Yeah, I think to your point, Jennifer, and I'm trying to go back to how we even kind of started this out. This actually came from Faculty Senate wanting us to seek out Gray's Associates. So it actually was not just me saying I think we needed Gray. I didn't even know I didn't even know who they were. And I think Faculty Senate President at the time, Dr. Odom, had brought them to our attention based on the work that was out there. So I was really saying, okay, well, if you want to go that route, let's go that route. So that's kind of where we are today. Again, it's pretty flexible right now. It's still early. And, if we need a little more dialogue there, that's fine. To be honest with you, I don't have a problem even if we said, we can stop everything. We're not on any timeline that they gave us. So it's really the ball's in our court. And to your point, we could develop a timeline. That's actually what they went over with us for their 2-day meeting. They actually went over kind of a timeline about the work that they would do and what they would look at. That's what I was suggesting that maybe you guys want to hear about. But if you don't think that's worth hearing, that's fine. We could listen to it from the groups that maybe want to hear about what they're going to do, bring that information back and share it with you instead of them sharing it with you. I'm flexible, I guess is what I'm saying.
I guess what I'm saying, it's not an either or. So whatever information they have, that's fine. But if the campus doesn't hear from you in terms of what will be done with the information, or there will be a point where we all have a voice, they won't be happy with anything Gray and Associates has to say. And I think it's kind of low-hanging fruit to say, please be assured at the end of this, we're all going to look at this data together, and it's going to be transparent, and we're going to have a conversation about what we value in terms of the education that we offer to our students.
Well, that's what I've been saying when I've been talking to people. And as I mentioned, when we opened this up, that's exactly what Gray's is going to help us with. So to answer your point, that's exactly what we're going to do, is look at the data that they're going to be compiling. And once we look at that data, we'll decide, as I said earlier, Gray's can't do anything to decide anything. That's got to be us. And I think we've got a good track record of coming together and deciding as a group, then, okay, what's our next move? So that is really where I am.
I think when the campus hears we, they think you might mean you. And the campus wants to know it's a we.
Well, I need your help with the we then, because that's why I get on here and talk with you and others, because it is a we thing. It's us. It's not we as in me. And that's why I was saying earlier, we can bring Gray's right here to you. So it's not just me. That's why I really strongly suggest that's probably where we should start, is let Gray's come in, and then let's all message together that this is what they're going to do, and this is what we're going to take from it. And we make those decisions going forward. It's not Grace that's going to do that. I'm open to that.
Thank you, Chancellor. Thank you, Professor Jenny Provost. And now, Matt, hopefully your audio
Hey.
system works. Good.
Is this working?
We, yeah, man, loud and clear. Yeah.
Okay. Yes, so I have a non-Gray associate question. It's about faculty hiring and the process to go about that. Now, for some context, I started here in 2012 and it was Rita Chang. And I think at that point, the faculty lines had already been centralized. So this centralized model of lines is all I've ever known. And now these lines are being returned to the college, which is the norm historically. But for me, it's something new because I've never experienced this setup before. And I understand and appreciate that that decision was made because you, on the listening tours, have heard a lot of faculty requests that we go back to that approach. But when my library faculty met last week to talk about what that means for us, there was a lot of confusion and some concern. So am I correct in thinking or understanding that we're no longer going to have to submit a hiring plan with a few positions that we would like? And if that's the case, what is the process for getting new positions? I guess I'm confused on how we're supposed to build on what we have if where does that come from? Where do those added positions come from with the new approach to hiring? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if you want me to answer that, Chancellor, or.
Yeah, go ahead, and then I'll jump in too.
Yeah. So, Matt, just the background is that during the time when it was centralized, and even before centralization, every dean would send up a hiring plan, even before centralization. Within a college, there would be a lot of requests from the various departments. And then there would be some kind of like a group. Every college had a different group that would like rank all these requests. So, and then that prioritized list would go to the provost, and the dean and the provost would discuss and say, this is what we want. And because the provost can see like the entire university, say, yeah, this is okay, that's not okay, this is allowed, not whatever. That would emerge. That was before. Then when it became centralized, all of the lines came to the provost office. And even then, the dean submitted hiring proposals, and it was a discussion that was had back and forth saying, okay, these are the lines that are approved for you. And what would happen is that if a college did not have any retirements and resignations, I'm just giving a stark example, but they had need, they had programs that are growing, then lines from one college would be given to the other college. So we met our need for hires, but they came from anywhere. So there were like 20 lines that came open and we had 10 hires, let's say. It was not an exact one-to-one match. Now, starting July 21, the lines stay in the college. So if there are 5 in engineering, ECTM, engineering, computing, technology, math, 5 come open, they stay in the college, but still the dean proposes that this is what we would like, these are where we would like to place them. And so there's some discussion back and forth, is that the best use of that line? There could be another college that has no retirements and resignation, but they have a need. So then we figure out how we're going to do that. So that's what we did this time for the 20 that had been approved for fall 2022. There were some lines that were centralized lines, and there were some lines that had come open after July 21. So we looked at the total number of lines, and we discussed that we don't usually replace every single one, because there are sometimes unexpected needs that arise when the start of a semester. So you keep a few lines, like your wiggle room. We also have to keep a few lines for startups, because when you hire somebody, they have startup needs, and where will that money come from? It has to come from that pool. For an entity also, it has to come from that pool. Someone gets a promotion, that money has to come from that pool. So you have to think of, you have this pool of money, and how are you going to use it? So someone retires or resigns, sometimes there is like a payout for their sick leave, unused leave that they have accumulated. So you have to pay that out. It's coming from there. So if there are 30 lines that come open, you don't exactly replace all 30 because then you don't have any of that wiggle room. So we had that discussion and we identified, okay, where are the greatest needs? And there were some colleges that decided to do like interdisciplinary hires, so that one college may not have had any retirement resignation, but another college was willing to help. So there was some of that discussion, because tomorrow that college that is today helping today could need help the next time. So there's also some discussion about we can never do like an exact replacement, because as per the financial sustainability plan, you might remember we gave up $10 million worth of lines forever. So we have those holes. So how do we ever get back to our old numbers, or how can we add new growth areas? So there was some discussion like, okay, what if enrollment grows? Could we use a distance education fund? So all of that came into discussion about how do you fill needs when there are no retirements or resignations. Imagine for fall 23, just hypothetically, if there was 0 retirements and resignations, does that mean we'll never hire anybody? Because no one retired or resigned, because that's where the lines, the salary comes open. I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, I think at the end there, especially when you said, how do we get back to the old numbers? It's going to all just be dependent on enrollment growth. I assume it sounds like, because the library is in a, and I feel that any unit with a small number of faculty are in a tough position because we have no depth. It would be like, let's say you got the College of Liberal Arts and you got history, philosophy, and political science, and you have one person for each of those 3. And the history person leaves, and when the history person leaves, the whole history program leaves with it. And then you've got this open line, and you say, well, we really want to grow philosophy, but we can't allocate that to philosophy because then we forfeit history forever, potentially. And that's where the library is. When we have a faculty member leave, we don't have any depth, so they take their whole function with them. And I'm trying to understand, in our situation, we're simply just perpetually spinning our tires, and whoever leaves, we don't have the luxury to debate on how we want to use that line. We have no choice but to fill that line with that role, because if we don't, it's gone. So that's why I was curious as to how do we grow on top of what we already have. And I guess it just comes down to enrollment.
That's one key component. Yeah, and I know, Matt, we live with that every day. But that's one key component. There is another one though.
It's support.
The other one is the board agreed to this about 7 years, I guess it was 5, 6, 7 years ago now, to this payback, this give back.
Yeah.
And that give back is because of what was happening in that period of time that really caused a heavy strain on the university, pretty heavy. And it's about a $5.4 million give back every year. So imagine that, $5.4 million of a give back. If we didn't have to give back $5.4 million, that's where your new and exciting money is to create the debt, right? In addition to your enrollment. So this go round, we just talked about it at cabinet this morning, it's pretty hot off the press, but we're going to dig into this year's payment without having to pick it out of these different areas and either use HERF funds to do that with, or use some of the money that we may receive from the governor if this plan is approved at that 5% amount that we're talking about. This give back will be done in 2 years. So if you wanted my answer about when will things start to look a little rosier in that area, 2025. That's about as honest as I can be, because we now will be out of that give back area, hopefully in the next 2 years. Our enrollment keeps upticking. We're projecting 11,800 plus students this fall. If we can continue to inch the needle up in enrollment and then pay our debt off in 2 years, which we're committed to doing. We have to do it. It's been board approved to do it. There's no way around it, right? Then you will start to see this cushion, right, where you actually have funds for maybe new people. Right now, it's a recycle game, right? It's a refill game, and that's what we're up against until we can, get out of some of the debt pieces.
In any case, it's actually you lose a line and you never get, and then you're stretched. So I'm now, when I was in my department 15 years ago, there were 3 or 4 of us doing modern European history, which is my research area of the world I focus on. And I'm the only one left. So Matt, I just want to say to you, I think that pain is spread across the campus. I don't think it's just library affairs. I think it's academic units, large and small. And it's the reality, and there's a painful reality to this, in the sense that we are half the size enrollment-wise that we were when I was here in 2007, when I arrived here. We were 21,000 students the year I arrived, and now if you're projecting 11,800, and I do the quick math in my head, that's close to half of the size.
Yeah, it's that
very silver.
And that's now, again, there's light at the end of the tunnel, but it's just not, we've got to be careful getting to the end of that tunnel as we go there. So the good news, like the provost will tell you, we have been able to leave those positions, at least in the dean's areas. They've been able to keep those positions there without us bringing them out and up and over. So there's some light there, but again, if we can pay down our bills, which we will, and even this go round, we're going to put a pretty big chunk down to pay it off. Our lab salary is at about $19 million right now. That means those positions that are open, that have gone unfilled, have created a lab salary. So there's some highlights in that budget. We're talking tomorrow morning. We have our budget and planning committee meeting. So some of you that are on that meeting, you'll hear about it again tomorrow. But there's some things there that I think are pretty promising. But it's just, we have to get out of this 7-year or this window of having to pay ourselves back.
Thank you. I know we have a hand here from Patrick, and then we're going to close this Q&A. Need to move on. And Patrick, your last question.
Okay, thank you. I just want to, I thank both the provost and the chancellor for all of their efforts towards enrollment, especially the provost. I know that she works tirelessly on those numbers and improving them, and we are very appreciative of that. Don't get me wrong. I guess I have 2 points that I want to make. One is that we were talking in this executive committee meeting about not simply in every instance using enrollment as a metric by which to determine whether to fill a hiring gap. I think I know that enrollment is a very important metric. That is absolutely something I realize, but I think that we also, and as faculty members, we do have a responsibility not just to our students, but if you'll allow me to be sort of idealistic here, I think we also have a responsibility to a sort of abstract conception of knowledge, and we have a responsibility as educators to the best that has been thought and said and demonstrated and painted and written throughout human history. I know that got really very abstract, but my point is that we have a responsibility to our students, but we also have another sort of ineffable responsibility. And this was brought to my attention, I think rather poignantly at the last faculty senate meeting, with the possibility of the disappearance of French, French as a language that's taught on this campus. And that's not, perhaps, I'm not throwing my weight entirely behind French necessarily, but there are certain things as a university that I think we have a responsibility to teach. One would be cultural competence, as an RME that we just approved in the Faculty Senate Executive Committee. So I would just urge the provost and the chancellor, when they're making these hiring decisions, to think about that as well, that enrollment is an extremely important metric, but it's not the only metric. It's not the only metric that should be considered. That was point one. And if you'll allow me just very quickly, I think also with hiring, that it's a process that, at least from my perspective and the perspective of other faculty members, that's sort of shrouded in secrecy. And it feels like, and again, this is not this, I'm not saying that this is the case, but it feels like a list is presented to the administration, and the administration sits down, and there are two people in the room, and they sort of say, okay, we're going to do this, we're not going to do that. And they kind of going to cross out certain positions. Again, I'm not saying that that's a fair characterization, but that is to some extent a perception on campus. So my point in this is, have we ever thought about a university-wide committee of faculty members who perhaps could work in consultation with the provost in evaluating hiring decisions? I understand that we have faculty level committees at the colleges. Those recommendations are then sent along to the dean. The dean then communicates recommendations to the provost. Would it be possible to have an intervening faculty committee between the deans and the provost, again, to offer consultation? And this would be a committee of faculty members from the university in its entirety, representing all aspects of academic life at SIU. That's just an idea. I'm not necessarily proposing that. It would be one way of alleviating this concern that the process is one that's shrouded in secrecy. So again, not that that's an entirely fair characterization, but that is the way some faculty members think. So I know that was long-winded. Thank you for your patience, and I will shut up now.
No, thanks. You don't have to shut up, but yeah, that's.
We only have about 30 minutes left. So either Chancellor Nan or Provost Komaracho, you address this question, then you have a few minutes to wrap up.
Okay, yeah, just to Patrick and Mira, I don't know if you want to add something after. First of all, we don't sit in any rooms and talk about, that. We don't have time to do that. So we're not doing that. But I totally agree with your point on don't use enrollment as the only metric. And here's some examples. That way you don't have to believe me, but just watch the examples. If we just used enrollment as the only metric, there'd be a lot more unhappy people here, because programs really would go away. Let's just be honest. They would disappear, because we have some faculty or some areas that are growing like crazy, and Mira could tell you which ones, that we'd like to shift in. If we were using enrollment as a metric, we would shift it all to those programs to have them continue to grow. So we're not doing that. Another example is our Africana Studies program. That program's not growing, but yet we added faculty to it. So it was not based on enrollment at all, right? It was based on, like you said, cultural competence is something that we want our students to lead with. So I totally agree with you. And as long as I'm here, even though I am pro we need enrollment, but still I think there is a clear, to your point, I think we've got to be a pretty diverse educational institution to be able to really get to where we're trying to go. And it can't just be based on the only enrollment or metric being enrollment. So I'm with you 100% on that. Another reason why, because of the advice of this council, we pushed a lot of those decisions to the deans, because we don't want you thinking we're operating in a back room, me and the provost. So that was the design, was to say any open positions that come open, then let's let the deans talk about what it is that they need to do within their areas. That was kind of the complaint we were getting, is that the deans didn't have really a a dog in that fight, and they had to send it up as soon as it was an open position. We took it and we spread it around somewhere else. So it really, our strategy was to then let that, discussion happen amongst the deans, and then in conjunction in association with the provost, they as Mira said earlier, they have their planning of, okay, well, let's look at it. Okay, that looks good. Great. Go ahead and rehire or do what you need to do. So, I think we want to stay somewhere there and not back to, we're kind of a dictatorship of, hey, we're going to be making all the decisions here on hiring. The chancellor, in my opinion, my role is not to make faculty hire decisions. You don't want me in that business. Okay, you don't want me there. I think even historically, there have been some issues when that has occurred, where searches aren't allowed to really be searches because you got the chancellor's hand all in your search and in your budget. I'm a firm believer, from the provost to the deans, they're very competent in order to be able to find what they need. My job is to find the resources that they need to be able to make the decisions. So I try to stay in my lane when it comes to that piece of it. Mira, I don't know if you want to add anything there.
Yeah, I would just want to say that if we were to use purely enrollment, those decisions would be easy. But those decisions are very, very difficult because we try to keep in mind, like, as you said, Patrick, why are we here? What does it mean to have a college educated student? What all do we need to have in place so that when we give the diploma and say you are a college educated student, what do they know and don't know? It is a broad-based education. So we keep that in mind. And sometimes we make those decisions where they may be low enrollment, but we think that's an important program.
Yeah.
But then we also have to make some difficult decisions when a big cluster of faculty leave a program and you cannot replace all of them. Is that one that we have to let go? And we've had to do that simply because of the resources issues.
Yeah.
Those are the hiring decisions are very, very difficult. There's a lot of angst that's involved. If we could have used a simple metric like enrollment, those would be easy.
Yeah.
But they're not easy decisions.
Okay, we have 8 minutes left. I would like to invite both Provost Kumaracho and Chancellor Nan to wrap up. And Provost Kumaracho, you have 3 minutes. Chancellor Nan, you have 5 minutes. I'm sorry. Okay, so.
I yield to the Chancellor. He can have his 5 minutes.
Oh, you give me your minutes?
Yeah, and then if there is any, I'll wrap up.
Well, we'll tag team this. That's great. Dr. Lee, I love it. You keep us on time. So first of all, I think the questions and what you're discussing is spot on. And please never think that there's a question you can't ask. That's why I'm on this call. That's why the provost is on the call. You're not going to hurt our feelings. We're not going to get off Zoom and go, oh gosh, Patrick, you asked all these tough questions. That's our job, right? That's what we do. So I appreciate the questions, and I hope we're answering the questions. We're trying to do it as honest as we can. We don't have any scripts here, so it's, even though it may sound off the cuff, it's accurate when we are responding. So I don't want you to think, we're just feeding you any line of anything. Right now, we are obviously clearly focused on getting towards the end of the semester. We've had the announcements last week about the mask optional announcements taking us through March 28th for the requirement of the mask. I will tell you that there's no way to make everybody happy when it comes to those decisions. And you may get praised on one end and beat on the other. So we just tried to take as much input as we could. So Dr. Lee, thank you for gathering the insight from faculty and others. We met with several constituency groups and tried to make the best decision that we could for our campus. We will look at hospitalizations. We'll look at positivity rates. We left ourselves about a 2-week window to do that when they return, or students return from spring break. If things look crazy, unfortunately or fortunately, right, we'll go back to where we were before with masks and everything else. We're not going to turn a blind eye to that, but we will use other variables besides just a positivity rate. We are looking at other areas. If things look fine, then we'll try and have that last month of the semester, maybe have a mask optional for everyone there. And so again, your input, we listen, we take it serious. Budget. I talked a little bit about this. As you know, in April is typically when we go back to the board and start to look at finances. We gave an update about what our expenses would look like from represented and non-represented groups if we gave a cost of living increase or a percentage increase, which we plan on doing. I've mentioned this before. If I had my way, we'd give at least a 1 to 3% every year if we're able to do it. I know we've got folks that are way out of whack, and we have some that may be above the market in terms of where they are in salary. And so that part you'll hear more about going forward. We hope if the governor's plan is approved, we'll know that here shortly. That's 5% that will come to us that we must spend between April and July or June 30th. That amount is about $3.8 million. So when you, again, I mentioned earlier, paying some of that give back down, getting some of that debt out of the way, that's going to help us for our future, is going to be critical going forward. We'll also receive that 5% in 2023. So that will help our state approach go from about 97 million to about 101 million. For us, that's a very positive sign given all of the declines in the past. It won't get us back, Joe, to where it was, a couple of years back, but it is moving in the right direction. That's our hope, is that it can continue to do that. We will probably have, just to be safe until we pay debt down, more of a hold the line budget. That means that we're going to watch our spending. We are going to fill what needs to be filled. That won't stop, especially in the faculty ranks with folks who've retired or resigned, things we've been talking about. But we are going to be watching our spending and making sure that we're not coming out of the gate too fast to do that. I'll talk a little bit about this tomorrow on the budget front for athletics. We've cut that budget down considerably. And it's to the point now, and it would take an hour to roll this out, but I think they're going to be right where we need them to be when it comes to now revenues and fundraising activities that are going to really support the amount that we were able to pull out. So we won't have to always be so reliant on any of the funds for the university. Beyond student fees, the athletic fee that comes through for them, it's gone down considerably, but that would be what they would rely on. We have a little bit of a safety net for them, but they would have to generate money through a number of different sources, and that's the strategy going forward. Finally, there are some positions that are out there that I'm sure you'll hear about that are in motion right now. Our Vice Chancellor for Research and Graduate Studies position is out there. We've got a few, one or two others. The ombudsperson, thanks, Dr. Lee. I think we're going to have, that committee is meeting. I know they're going to come back with it. They've got finalists now, so we should be wrapping that up pretty soon going forward. And other than that, our strategic planning, and we've talked about that, so I won't go into detail. Joe actually led me right into really what I wanted to say in this moment. So I'll stop there. And Mira, I don't know if you have something.
Yeah, 1 minute, okay.
Yeah, I know. Sorry.
Yeah, no problem. I sent the enrollment data to Josh, and he's shared that with everyone. I just wanted to sort of echo what Chancellor Lane just said about the strategic plan, that each of the deans is working with their leadership team and all the other directors with their staff teams to respond to how they would think through at a minimum one pillar, but if they can do all of the pillars and within each pillar look at least one objective and one key initiative, so they can get familiar with that way of thinking, and we can always scale it up and build it up. So that's what everyone is working on right now.
Okay, thank you so much. Yeah, I know it's a good timing. So we have half minutes for jokes. Anyone have a good jokes?
This is perfect because I got Shaylee on another Zoom at 3 o'clock. So you really help keep us on task. That's good.
Well, we need a motion to join the meeting.
Motion to adjourn.
Anyone second? Okay, thank you so much. Okay, have a good afternoon.
Thank you, Brian.